Good afternoon, I'm College-Culbertson. I am here today to discuss with you the effects and the pros and cons of the shift to social media and online deliverance of news and current events. It is interesting to consider how each of us begins our day. Does it start with a cup of coffee and glancing through the daily newspaper delivered by the local paper boy? Or maybe you start with opening your laptop and glancing through the most recent posted headlines of your favorite news source website. Whatever the case may be, how we go about doing so varies significantly from that of our parents or even our grandparents. My conception of public news and media used to be solidly rooted in the traditions of my grandfather and our tradition of watching Andy Griffith. In the time of Andy Griffith, it was very common for a newspaper to be delivered every morning and to find a group of elderly men perusing the newspaper in the streets, or Barney Fife, who was regularly responsible for updating the news on the sheriff's bulletin board. Whatever the case may be, they were always regularly updating the information. Nowadays, there are both good and bad associated with the growth we've experienced in the world of journalism. Specifically, we're going to talk about the topics of the access to the information we have, the speed at which we receive that information, and the reliability of that information. So first, we will talk about the access of information. We used to have just physical papers, People magazine, things like that. However, according to Forbes, magazines, physical papers, they're all becoming a thing of the past. And according to Forbes, over 2.4 billion users are on the internet, and approximately 64.5% of them receive their information and breaking news through social media platforms such as Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all these other sites. Now, this is fantastic for users because at the touch of a screen, they have access to all of this information that usually you'd have to wait weeks or days to get a hold of. However, and you have options for whatever mix of sources that you would like to look at. So if you wanted to look at the stock market, you could simply search that up on your web browser, or international trade. Anything that you like is at the touch of your fingertips. However, in this manner, the information that you receive solely responds to the followers that you have or that you follow and those people that you associate with, creating an immense lack of diversity and major bias of information. With so much to read, Forbes also reports that viewers rarely read through the entire article. Actually, they tend to just scan through the headline and a few lines that are relevant to the information before moving on to the next one. And this ease of constant accessibility comes as a result of the speed at which we receive information. Never before has it been easier to stay informed in the happenings of the current world, nationally, globally, even just locally. Yet journalists and news sources have to constantly compete in a rapid market of competition. So we are faced with radicalized and crazy headlines meant to grasp our attention solely for the purpose of viewership and site traffic. So how much of this information do we really absorb? And with that rate of turnover, so much is forgotten or missed by the time the next story comes out. And this brings us finally to the reliability of sources. With so much access and information of sources, what do you believe? How can you trust what you read? The speed incites suspicion in the readers. Now, suspicion is good and healthy to an extent. It promotes a source of further individual education and individual research. However, the skepticism has grown immense these days, and sincerity of reporting is skewed more than ever. In the Journal of Science, Sinan Aral states that falsehood is diffused farther, faster, deeper, and more broadly than the truth in all categories of information. That's horrible to think about. And now skepticism is intensified to the point that defining what is true and false has become a common political strategy. We're faced with constant worry about whether or not the information we're reading is true. And if we don't do that research, we're misled or stuck as victims to media bias. This is an absolute shame that we have been lowered to this state of misinformation. And as Tim Cook, the boss of Apple, states, something that was once considered unthinkable has become inevitable. Current generations lack interest and willingness to explore further and what may vary from the basis of their own thought. There's no exploration of anything that varies from their own opinion or basis of thought. And as a result, there is an immense world of bias amongst us when so much information lays at our fingertips. Nor do we look into the opposition of our own opinions. It incites anger in us instead. Again, further bias. While we are living in a time far more advanced and involved than in the days of Andy Griffith, we are farther from the trusting and understanding that we deserve than ever before. It makes you wonder, are we better off now or were we better in the past? Thank you. I appreciate your time. Have a wonderful day.